Hey, welcome back to Real World Deer Hunter. I'm Steve. Still got pink eye. We're going to roll on anyhow. Here's the big question. A lot of hunters are now taking up straight wall cartridges. And we know they're good at short distances. But what about guys that want to take something like this, okay, and knock down a deer out at 200 yards? I mean, that's not that far as quote, rifles go, but 200 yards is pretty far for most straight wall cartridges. And to tell you the truth, it's under a lot of hunting circumstances, that's pretty far on the East Coast. Now, the question being the 200 yard mark. Is it doable? Well, yeah, it's doable. There are a couple things you have to think about. Number one is, are you still delivering that energy downrange? And in the cases of all the cartridges I'm going to talk about, they either just barely do it, or they're kind of closer to the lower limit of it, but it's doable. It's ethical, let's say, okay? You're not pushing it. You're not trying to kill a deer with 600 foot-pounds of energy with a 45 caliber bullet or anything like that. Okay, you're talking like 900 to like 1,100, 1,200 pounds. So that should kill a deer, especially if the bullet expands. So we're good from there. Now, I took a look at 350 Remington, 350 Legend, 360 Buckhammer, 4570, 450 Bushmaster, and 444 Marlin. Because that's what Federal loads for, and that's the loading information that I used, Federal. Okay. So, with a 100-yard sight in, you're talking about a lot of drop with any of these cartridges at 200 yards, to the point where you're not point blank, as in you're not putting the crosshairs on a deer. It's not happening. Okay, what can we do about that? Well, we can use a 200-yard sight in. Now, if you sight in dead on at 200 yards, you'll be as low as 4 inches high with some rifles, and as high as 6 inches high at 100 yards, which means that if you're shooting that high, you could miss a deer at shorter range. Yeah, it can happen. You can shoot right over them. Not surprisingly, one of the best cartridges that I came out with trajectory was the 180 grain 350 Legend. And very close to that is that 360 Buckhammer. They'll both do it. They won't put as big a hole in a deer. You won't hit them with quite as much energy. But in the way of flatness and trajectory, you could sight in, off the top of my head, I'm going to say somewhere around 2.5 to 3 inches high at 100 yards and still be inside the deer in, quote, point blank range at 200. Now, you're going to have to do this with your own rifle, and you know what they say, experiences may vary. But with a sight-in similar to what I'm talking about, yeah, you can have a 200-yard straight wall cartridge. I know in the old days with peep sights that were that tall and stuff, the guy shot a lot further. Different rounds and stuff like that, but hey, they killed stuff. So what's the verdict? I'd say that you can very well have a 200-yard straight wall deer rifle. Hey, if you've tried this 200-yard stuff, and because I haven't, I honestly haven't. I sight in dead on at 100 yards with my 4570. But if you have some experience shooting longer ranges with these cartridges, I'd really like to know about it. Hey, I'm Steve.